For those in the audience getting to know you here for the very first time, care to share where you were born?
I was born in Trumbull, Connecticut, East Coast. Yep.
And care to share where you were raised as well?
There as well. Yeah.
And care to share where you reside these days?
Right now I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah, I've been there for like 8 years.
Now, when it comes to this area of Connecticut for you, was it a certain age range for you that you were raised in this area specifically for?
Um, I was bouncing around Connecticut until I was about 18. I was trying to get out by the time I was 17 or 18. I kind of had enough of it. But it was a cool spot, cool little upbringing. Yeah.
And that area that you were raised in, that city or town that you mentioned here, for those that aren't familiar with that location, particularly in Connecticut, but maybe familiar with like a Hartford or so on and so forth,
Yeah.
how far of a distance is that?
It's like 45 minutes from Hartford. Yeah. It's in between Bridgeport and Fairfield. So you kind of have two different sides. You have like Bridgeport, which is like, I've heard it's like one of the poorer cities in America, and then you have Fairfield County, which is like one of the richest cities in America. So I was somewhere in the middle of those two and had friends from both cities, and just got to see like a difference in both. Yeah.
And when you say you were bouncing around, were you bouncing around in that specific area of Connecticut or you were bouncing in other places outside of that area?
Both of those cities in Trumbull, and went to high school in Fairfield, and then yeah, my stepdad had family in Bridgeport, and we would go to Bridgeport, and yeah, just kind of bounced around those areas of CT, kind of near the water line. Yeah.
But if there was a circle chart of 100%, what percentage of all those places you mentioned here, you named, did you stay the most in?
I think Trumbull mostly. Yeah, that's where I lived.
And you want to put a percentage on that, maybe?
I put like a 70%, and the other 30 in Fairfield and Bridgeport. Yeah.
And what was the reason for the move to LA?
Um, I think you always want what you don't have, and I think I was tired of winters and thought that the folks that I was seeing in Connecticut just weren't creative, and I think it kind of challenged me to want to be different, want to be, not like the people I saw. So, and when you're growing up and all you know is like music and palm trees are in Los Angeles, and the people that I was listening to and all that was over there. So I was like, how do I get over there? Because I'm making music and I have no one to work with or function with. So, um, yeah, I was like, I'm out. Yeah.
Now, you're not the only one with that dream
Nah.
of, taking your career and going to LA and doing a start there with it and so on and so forth. And, people like yourself, I'm sure, see visions of LA through television and movies and hear lyrics about it and music and so on and so forth. But ultimately speaking, was it what you thought it would be? Because it's, they say the grass is always greener on the other side. Uh, and you're not, like I said, you're not the only one that has these thoughts and visions of doing that. Was it what you thought?
I think at first it kind of was. And, I moved there when there was like a lot of amazing things going on musically. You would have like Schoolboy Q do like a pop up like right up the street. You'd have Kendrick Lamar doing like some thing that we were chasing him on he was like performing on the back of this bus while it was moving, and we were just running around, and there's shit like that happening like every week, and like bands that I loved would just come into town. So as somebody who loves music and wants to see shows and just be in the scene a little bit more, it was that. But I think I slowly realized that it's like it doesn't just come to you. You need to like find your people. So for the first year, I was definitely like a little bit fish out of water until I found my people. So I always tell people who move to LA, like I'm like, just give it like a little second before you write it off, or try to be one of these people who always like, clown LA and just say like, oh, it's so fake or it's fake. There's fake people everywhere, and I was able to find some amazing people, and I think that's what kept me there for some time before I moved to Brooklyn for a year. But I eventually came back to LA because I was like, I miss my people. Yeah.
Now, Another facet of LA is you hear about some of those dreams and fantasies. Hey, I'm going to move to LA, start my career there, sort of thing, from maybe a small town, whatever. But then you hear those stories, those news headlines of people getting lost in LA, La La Land, right? And they go down a path that they can't recover from. How are you able to avoid maybe that fork in the road there for some that have gone that way?
I think that might just be type of person. I've never been. I've always kind of known who I am and where I come from and what I want to deal with. I think you got to see you could be a voyeur to all that and see it all and just not get sucked into it. But it depends how planted your feet are. And I don't think I experienced anything that was like ultra. Like I didn't experience like ultra fame. Like I'm not like Justin Bieber out in LA, like getting swept up to, like we definitely saw some dope shit that we were like, this is a crazy scene, but then you'd always get to go back to your homies who keep you grounded and just be able to chop it up and be like, that was insane. Like, what are we doing today? And it kind of keeps you grounded. But yeah, I don't know. I think I just have I got a good head on my shoulders. I know where I want to go. I know what's gonna deter me, and I keep people around me who are on the same wave.
Now, we may have touched on the answer to the next question that I wanted to pose you, but asking you now formally in case you want to add on to what you said. Now, circumstances could be different for everyone, but can you give the audience, and you've already given one already, but can you give the audience here 5 tips for anyone moving to LA?
5 tips. Okay. First one would be know that you have everything that you need and you don't need to look elsewhere. And I think a lot of people go there or to any music city and think that, other people are going to do it for them and that's their way. I think sometimes you got to close the doors and just be like, you're special for your own reasons. And you don't want to dilute your sound or your creativity through just like the general masses. That'd be number one. And number two would be kind of like a contradiction. It'd be like use the people that you see and meet um, in ways that are like mutually beneficial and can help you and help them. Quincy Jones says, "If I can't use you and you can't use me, we're useless." And I think just like kind of creating your team and allowing time for that. And it takes a lot of like, kind of like speed dating, like sessions. I remember going into LA and being like in a million different sessions and just being like, I like this, don't like this. And you get to pick and choose. It takes a little bit of a trial and error. Number three would be get yourself a car so you can move around. LA is not a place to uh, just be Ubering. You can't really fuck with the trains, no buses, nothing like that. You got to get a whip. Um, Number four would be build yourself a studio or a creative space where you can lock in and kind of host people and do your own thing. I've been lucky enough to have a nice studio in my backyard, and that's why I haven't left. Like, if I didn't have that spot, I don't think I would be still in LA. Number five, uh, I think I would say, yeah, kind of what you were saying earlier. Don't there's so much bullshit. There's so many things that are gonna pull you in different directions. And I've spent so many nights with people that I couldn't give a shit about energetically. I think that is important, but don't get lost in that shit. It goes back to number one. Realize what you're there to do. I think everyone in LA is on a mission of some sort, and that's why it can get a bad rap because it's kind of it can feel a little greedy or everyone's trying to rat racy, um, but you just lock in with your people and you'll be all right. And give it some time too.
Yeah, that was actually the first tip unannounced before I even posed the question formally that you had mentioned was the time scenario. And speaking of time, you mentioned you moved out to Brooklyn for a year. Was that music related or career related or?
It kind of was, yeah. I saw this documentary about Lee Morgan, this jazz artist who who died kind of tragically, and it's called A Search for a New Land, or no, the documentary is called I Called Him Morgan. And I watched this jazz documentary and was so moved by the music and just the general vibe of old Brooklyn and this jazz scene and just kind of the spookiness of, you know, Brooklyn, New York, Harlem. And I remember reading books like Invisible Man back in the day and shit like that, where I was just like, when else am I going to be able to be young and creating things in New York and just join that frequency? So um, a project idea popped in my head, and I was like, I want to make an album called Winters in Brooklyn, and I want to spend a winter in Brooklyn. And I had spent the summer in like Soho area, and then I moved to far out Brooklyn, like Bushwick, Bed-Stuy area, and just worked on a project and lived with my girlfriend at the time and made music there for the year and met a bunch of amazing people and just soaked in New York for a little bit.
So, the girlfriend at the time, did that have anything to do with leaving Brooklyn when you did and going back to LA?
Um, Partially. I think I wanted to get out of. I didn't have many friends in Brooklyn. I was like an hour train ride away from the city. A lot of my friends were in the city or like Williamsburg, closer to Brooklyn area, and I was just like, what am I doing out here alone in this? We had a cool spot, but I think I kind of isolated myself for a little too long, and I was like, I want to go back and see my friends, and it was my first time living with a girl too. So I was like, you're 21 living with a 20-year-old girl or something. It's like, we're kids, man. What are we doing in deep Brooklyn right now? Yeah.
Got it. Well, the reason why I even asked you about it was because, one of the tips that you had given was give it some time in LA before you just, you call it quits or whatever. So just wanted to see if you kind of took that advice yourself when it came to Brook. Did you give it a fair amount of time? Understanding the circumstances you just presented here.
I think it was like a year and a half total. I probably could have given it some more time. And we were just in Brooklyn last week for a show, and I definitely miss it. Um, I think that there was so much going on in LA that I felt like I was forcing myself to stay in Brooklyn just for the sake of being there. And I'm from Connecticut. I could always go to New York. I was going to New York all growing up. So probably could have given it a little bit more of a minute, but when you get FaceTimes from the homies or they visiting and telling you what they're doing in LA and you know what what's there, it's kind of hard to not want to go back and see the boys.
Now, speaking of LA, before I preface this question, just to sidestep, for those in the audience here getting to know you for the very first time, on social media, care to share your Instagram handle there, just in case there's some unofficial or some scammy pages out there,
For sure, it's
profiles?
just Felly, Felly, at Felly.
Now, this backyard spot where you have this makeshift studio at is something that you have photographed and shared with your Instagram and so on and so forth. And those in the audience can take a glance at that. Curious here, this spot in the backyard, was this something you constructed just for the purpose of this studio? Was this something that you turned into like, was it a shed you turned into a studio or a pool house you turned into a studio?
There was a musician living there previously, and he had moved out, and I spent about 3 or 4 months on a friend's couch, just like on Zillow every day, looking for the right spot. And when I walked in, I saw the back spot, and it's attached to a garage, and it's not like a proper studio, but it has like the exact dimensions, and you can kind of see where you'd put everything. So I built it out. It's called the Lagoon, and I've made a lot of great songs in there. Just kind of, and I think in a studio, the more like love you put into it, and the more records that come from it, it sort of carries this thing. So when we walk in or have people come through, it gives songs, it writes songs, and it's casual, and it has windows, and you can open the doors and go in and out while you're making a song. And I've always hated like dark studios, like little small rooms. I think I was doing a lot of that in Brooklyn, and I was like, let me let this bitch breathe a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like you got the sun coming in through the windows and things of that nature.
it's fire. Yeah,
Looks open and airy. And When it comes to the studio, what's the biggest song so far you've created just within that space that you recall?
One that's coming to mind is Heartstrings, which eventually Carlos Santana played on. And that was just a sick session. You don't know how different characters end up in the room or who called who or why they came with these people and this guy pulled up and he was playing guitar and this dude was on the drums or whatever. Um, but I think, like I mentioned, having a spot like that where shit can just happen is important. So yeah, Heartstrings was a really cool one that came out of that, and just remember that session pretty vividly.
And I know there's a drum set pictured in the studio and things of that nature. Is that ever a bother to any of the neighbors?
I haven't gotten one noise complaint yet. Knock on wood. Yeah, I'm loud as fuck. And I think that, yeah, the problem in Brooklyn was the first day I moved in and I got this like, it was like kind of like a rooftop spot. And I was like, okay, perfect. Like I'm on my own. The day I moved in, I had these speakers I immediately set up while I was moving shit in. And I start playing some music. Within like 5 minutes, the next door neighbor comes by. He's like, are you banging on the walls with a hammer or something? I was like, oh, fuck. And I should have known then that I probably should have just like been like, okay, because these walls were so thin, so I could hear this dude sneeze. I could hear everything. So um, that really fucks with me when I'm recording, and I need to be able to try things vocally, scream, sing, fuck up, whatever, without being conscious of anybody being able to hear me. And I can do that in this spot in LA. But it was fucking with me in New York. I eventually got over it, and I think he probably heard me saying some insane things and hitting the same verse 30 times. So he probably hated it, but we had to get some work done.
And you ended up moving out before he did, assuming here.
Yeah, yeah. I subleased. Yeah, I was like, who want to take this spot?
Now, with this, speaking of your neighbors here, obviously you haven't had a noise complaint yet. But do they know who you are? If they don't know who you are popularity-wise, do they know that you're a musician? Are they accepting of this? Do you have some accepting neighbors of that?
Yeah, they were a little, they weren't fucking with us at first. I think it was really when the tour bus pulled up in front of the house a few years ago, and we had all the friends loading, and they were like, just able to see like, oh wow, he does this with his friends, and they kind of got an idea of, what we do is legitimate, and it's like this is what I do, that's what you do, respect. So there was a couple little nasty neighbors at first, but I think. Yeah, what do they call them? Fair weathered fans. Some of them, they be rocking with us now.
And speaking of now, you're on tour at this point, which explains the stop in Atlanta. You have a show tonight, and care to share the name of this tour that you're currently embarking on?
It's called the For the Crows tour. Yeah, For the Crows.
Which is also a song titled on your current album as well,
Yeah, it's a
that
song for the
released.
Crows. Yeah, it's based off that.
And care to share the title of that album as well?
And Brockside. Yeah, that's the new album.